That is our job. That's what we're here for, and we want you to ultimately end up in the right place. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Closing Table Conversations. I'm your host, Jason Farris. I'm with the Gill Group, a licensed real estate agent, part of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Professional Realty. And today I'm sitting down with David and Jodee Gill, two very accomplished real estate agents, and they're here to share their insights and advice. So David and Jodee, first of all, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, we were looking forward to it. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk real estate.
All right. So why don't you start out sharing with our listeners, just for some background, a little bit about how you got involved in real estate and your journey.
So actually, David and I both got the real estate bug as kids. My dad took a job. We lived in Illinois. I was in elementary school, and he took a job in Columbus, Ohio, and bought a house without my mom and promised her that it would only be temporary. So we went to open houses constantly. Actually, for years, it was not so temporary. I think they lived in that house for 20 years. I think most kids would say that they were dragged to open houses. I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I knew I wanted to be a realtor. Mm-hmm. I was graduating high school, and I told my dad I wanted to be a realtor. I wanted to get my real estate license. He said, great, but you're going to college. So summer between graduating high school and starting college, I went to Franklin University, got my license, and put it in escrow, and went to Ohio State as a freshman. So it's just been in me ever since I was little. It's always something I wanted to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
And how about you, David?
Very similar with me. My dad, when he got out of the Vietnam War, he was stationed in Germany for years, and that's actually where I was born. But he bought his first investment property using the GI Bill, which I'm not sure that you can do these days. I think they might have changed the rules. But at a young age, I was dragged along to help repaint the rooms and get them ready for the new tenants. They put me to work when I was probably 6, 7 years old, and I always just resonated with the real estate concept. I knew that that is something I wanted to do when I got older. Life has its twists and turns, and I ended up in the construction biz for about 20 years and then started looking for my own investment properties, which led to me getting licensed in real estate and really starting to chart our path, and ended up with Jodee and I working together and then starting the Gill Group, which is a family team that we love helping do what we have done, which is organically grow and help people buy and sell more properties.
I love it. And Jodee, you were my real estate for interest of full disclosure for many years.
Yes.
And that origin story of and kind of like that natural love for real estate versus maybe just choosing that as a career kind of informs on how you take such great care of your clients. And I can speak to that from experience. So shifting gears, can you just give us a little bit more? You mentioned the Gill Group. Tell us a little bit more about the Gill Group. What makes it special? What kind of things do you focus on?
You know, like I mentioned earlier, it happened somewhat organically. We were not looking to start a big team. We were not looking to become mega agents. But we ended up with family members, you know, like yourself, either through blood or marriage. And we obviously wanted to help support that. And we just ended up starting the Gill Group, I'd say 5, 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's a really fascinating endeavor because we all have our different strengths. We can touch on every facet of the real estate business through the 6 of us that work together, investments, property management, obviously buying and selling. Jason, I know you have experience with short-term rentals and the VRBO, Airbnb world, as do Jodee and I. So there's really the full cycle of real estate that we have expertise in, that we can navigate our buyers and sellers, and we love doing it.
And Jodee, could you touch on, because I know this is near and dear to your heart, how did you choose the team members?
They actually chose us. Yeah, just having no desire at all to build a big team. I think it started with Andy, David's stepbrother, wanted to get his real estate license and asked if he can come under our wings. And of course we said yes, and it was great. And since then we added Haley, who is my son-in-law's cousin. So we call her our niece. She's
just to keep it simple.
Really
we say Haley's our niece.
We wish she were. We love her like a niece. But yeah, so then we added Kevin, our son-in-law, and you.
And so everyone in the Gill Group has some sort of family connection.
Yes.
Absolutely, which I think it makes it special, and it makes it just a little bit more important as collectively because there's that family connection, which is really powerful.
Well, and also, to be honest, we had people ask if they could be on our team, and we said no many times. And so when we added Andy, we said, well, he's family. So we've been able to say that multiple times. Well, they're family. So,
yeah, we tell folks, hey, sorry, but this is a family team.
It's a
and
family team.
We love you, but, and we will still mentor you, but you're not going to actually be a part of the Gill.
That's great. And everyone takes care of, I've noticed since I've joined the team, that everyone takes care of each other's clients when
Yes.
they have to back each other up as if you're taking care of family.
Absolutely.
I think it makes it special.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit and let's dig a little deeper into real estate. Give our listeners maybe some tips and advice as we go. Sure. Let's start out with, the industry has changed. The real estate industry has changed a ton over your career, I'm sure. What have you guys noticed recently or just in general as like what's different today than maybe when you started or even mid-career?
Well, I think it goes without saying that technologically things are dramatically different even when I started in 2012. And if you even go back farther and you talk about the printed MLS listings, you talk about wet signatures, having to chase a buyer and seller around town to sign the document. You didn't have the DocuSigns and the dot loops of the world.
Going to a real estate office to pick up the keys to open the door and then taking the keys back when you're done. Yeah, so definitely the speed. Everything is a lot quicker and faster these days.
And thank God for Google Maps. I mean, back in the day, and this is kind of before my time, but I've heard stories of when people actually had to chicken scratch a map on a piece of paper and they're driving around just to try and show their buyers. So technologically, it's just a completely different world.
Yeah. And Garmin's. Oh my gosh, we were so excited when Garmin's came out.
And I'm not even sure if kids know what a Garmin is these days, but it was a pretty exciting change for us.
We're dating ourselves.
Let's shift over to talking about just the current market, buyers and sellers. So let's start out with talking about buyers a little bit. What are you seeing in the market today? From the perspective of the buyer?
Well, I think it is a better time to buy right now than it has been in the last few years. It is still a seller's market. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, but it is trending towards a more balanced market. The days of 20 offers on a property seem to be going away. You still might get 2 or 3, but you're not competing with dozens of other entities, buyers, what have you. The appraisal gaps, which were part and parcel of every offer in the last couple of years, seem to be trending back a little bit. You can actually write an offer with an inspection period, with a remedy period, which is something that buyers a couple of years ago had to waive just to even have a chance to get into into contract on a home that they were interested in.
Okay, yeah, I'll add to that. I think that the buyers who have a lease agreement, this is a really good time for them to buy. It's much better to build equity as a homeowner than pay the landlord rent. But we also have people who are sitting on interest rates at 2.5%, and so they might be outgrowing their house or needing to downsize, but they're hesitant because they don't want to give that up. Right. So that's definitely contributing in the lack of inventory.
Agreed, and there's a whole lot of things that combine interest rates and the overall economy, inflation, politics, et cetera. Not enough time for that today, but yes, point taken. So what about new builds? Do you think that's something that buyers, when they're looking at the entire landscape, should be thinking about?
Absolutely. New builds are great because we do have a lack of inventory. A lot of the new build companies are offering low interest rate loans. Especially if you get an inventory home, they're even less. So I think that's a great opportunity. If you have a buyer who needs more time to fulfill a lease or a buyer who has a home to sell and they need more time to prep for it, that gives them the time to take care of those things.
I think one of the things that we've seen in the market is, for lack of a better word, some punch-drunk buyers. They are writing offers over list. Mm-hmm. They are writing what I just mentioned before with an appraisal gap, waiving remedies. Those things really help steer a buyer potentially to a builder. And obviously we hold their hand and don't just pass them on to the builder because they still want to be represented. But it allows them to build the exact house that they want. They are not competing with 20 other offers. They know exactly what dollar amount they're getting into right up front with the agreed upon contract. Now, obviously, it's going to take a little bit of time unless it's an inventory home like Jodee just mentioned. But if you have 8 or 9 months, you can really get your ducks in a row and end up with the exact house that you want in the exact neighborhood that you're looking for. And it takes some of the pressure off the buying process in Central Ohio, which is, one of the key things as an agent we really try and do is lower the boil.
Agreed. And we're blessed with lots of good builders in Central Ohio. And I've got a couple buyers in new build phases right now, and I can tell you that it's a very exciting time, even though it can be stressful picking out certain things. But buyers tend to love that journey, and you mentioned give them a little bit easier pace to take care of other things. So I love the new build situation if the buyer has got the time for it. All right. So any other advice for home buyers right now?
Well, Jodee, we were talking about earlier, I think it's very important to sit down and have a pretty detailed buyer consultation with your realtor. Sets expectations in terms of potential costs. You're going to know what an inspection is going to run, the different inspections that you might have, a general, a radon, a wood, a termite inspection, how much an appraisal costs, what the real estate timeline is going to be all about, because the real estate timeline chews up the calendar pretty quickly. So people who are thinking about jumping into the spring market, they want to be doing this in February, not in May. And I think that is something that we really try and set the expectation, and we sit down with them and go over that type of stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of buyers, we've heard this so many times, they'll say, well, we know we are not going to be purchasing anything for 6 to 12 months. We didn't want to waste your time. Well, us opening doors so that they can get more educated on what the inventory looks like, the neighborhoods that they might like, or the style of house that they might like. That's all a part of the process, and it's our job.
Right.
So it's never a waste of our time to open doors just for information gathering purposes.
Yep, and I can remember, Jodee, go back to when my wife and I were looking for houses, how many houses you used to show us. And we learned before I became an agent how educational that was, and how much more well-informed we felt when we walked into the next house, understanding about things like value and things we wanted versus when we first started. And so that's one thing I've carried with me from that time that I talk to my buyers about, and I drill it down even simpler, and I just tell them, see as many houses as is practical for you.
Well, and it's also educational for us as realtors, because the more houses we see, the more we know the market, we know what's out there. We might show you a house that you're not interested, but we might have another buyer that might be.
Correct.
So, yeah, it's never a waste of time.
Great tip for buyers right there.
Can I jump in with one last?
Yeah, sure.
So one of the things I think is also really important, and then I always tell a buyer at our initial meeting or the first time we look at a house, is it's not about finding a house. It's about finding the perfect house, as much as that can be, as many boxes as you can check as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not just here to open a door and try and get you in a transaction. We want to make sure that you are so excited to buy this property that the whole thing really means something, and it's not just about doing a transaction.
Yeah, I love it. And so for the buyers out there that are maybe hesitant to bother their agent on a Saturday, or maybe they think they've seen too many houses with their agent, that is our job. That's what we're here for, and we want you to ultimately end up in the right place, not just run through a transaction. So great advice.
It's funny when we hear someone say, well, we didn't want to bother you on a Sunday. Like, that's our busiest day of the week.
Right.
Bother me.
All right, so let's shift gears and go to home sellers. So what are you seeing in the market related to the other side of the coin with home sellers?
Yeah, we're seeing home sellers that are sitting on 2.5% interest rates. And I mentioned that before, not wanting to give that up. So definitely.
One of the things that we're really talking to our sellers about now is the market has shifted. It is still definitely a seller's market, but it's not quite as on fire as it might have been 12, 18, 24 months ago. So you cannot just throw your house on the market willy-nilly and expect it to sell in 2 days. You have to do your due diligence, and that's where we come in. We really help you prep your property. The goal is obviously to make money, not to spend money. And I'd say Jodee and I over the years have helped people buy and sell over 1,000 houses, so we know what people need to do to maximize getting their house ready to sell without going overkill, without going overboard and spending too much money. So that's one of the back and forths we like to have with our sellers. We do like to sit down with them, and we do offer staging. We offer supplemental staging. We'll give them an idea of how they need to have their house prepped, any work that needs to be done. And sometimes we'll just have them get an estimate. Maybe they're not ready to put in new carpet, but have that card in your back pocket. We know what it costs to recarpet this home. So if a buyer potentially comes in and says it might cost $5,000 to do carpeting, well, as a matter of fact, it only costs $2,500, and we have an estimate right here for just that scenario.
Right. So, one thing I would say, because we've been talking in generalities about markets, right? And we need to for the amount of time we have for this episode. However, there are so many different micro segments of markets. And David said multiple times it's gotten more balanced, right? But there are even some markets, more rural areas, where it's even more swung into the buyer's favor. So again, just another plug for why that consultation with your realtor in terms of where you're looking, even down to the neighborhood, can be different than something a few streets over. So that's important, right, to drill down on that with your agent so you understand where we're at. Are we in a buyer's market or a seller's market or in the middle or wherever? So there's so much competition. And you mentioned inventory is low, real interest rates are locked in, that sort of stuff. And buyer demand is not always what sellers would like to see. So for a seller, what do you tell them at the beginning, maybe as you're consulting with them? What's the most important things to be concerned with?
I think they need to understand that it doesn't matter what their mortgage balance is. It doesn't matter what the house down the street sold for 6, 8, 10 months ago.
Yeah.
It matters what the market is going to bear, what a buyer in that snapshot of a market is willing to pay for that property. Now, of course, there's a lot more that goes into it than just that. We help them stage it. We help them prep it. We help set the expectation. As agents, that is what we bring to the table. We're familiar with the market as much as you can be in a fluid, changing real estate, environment that is hard to understand when it is going to change, even for professionals like us who this is what we do for a living. So we really just try and give them the scenario, the expectation of what to expect, a realistic list price. And we also kind of give them a couple different options that we talked about on the way here.
Yeah, it depends on the seller's motivation. Most sellers want to get the most money for their house, but some sellers just want to sell their house quickly, and they don't want to take the time. They don't have the time to, take care of new carpet and paint and those things.
Right.
So we would just let them know how they should price it according to their motivation.
Yeah,
So.
great.
We have a couple scenarios in the past where we have helped our clients. Well, we have given them two paths forward. If you just want to list it today, this is your ballpark listing price. If you are willing to trust us and spend $12,000, $13,000, $14,000, you will realize an increased sale price of $50,000, $60,000, $70,000.
This is actually my favorite part of our job, is when we get sellers who trust us and give us carte blanche to pick our contractors, pick out the finishes, get it, best foot forward, ready to photograph and show.
And watching the look on their face when their house sells for $70,000 more than they ever dreamed.
Right.
So that is something that you have to understand out there is agents, we know how to position your property to sell for the highest amount of money.
And we've done this for ourselves. We'll buy a property and I don't want to use the word flip, but, we'll upgrade it, update it, and we'll either hold it, keep it as a long-term rental or a short-term rental, or we'll sell it. So we've done it many times for ourselves, and it's been a lot of fun when sellers allow us to do that for them too.
And I know the $12,000, $70,000 you referenced comes from a very specific recommendation that you made, and it actually happened that way.
Absolutely.
So every situation is unique, but that one was a big win for them.
It was a slam dunk for them. They were thrilled.
Yeah, I think our best review we've ever received from a seller came from a seller who allowed us to just go in and
That's great.
work our magic.
Yeah.
And up front, they were a little hesitant, I
Yeah.
will say.
Yeah.
And they really allowed us to help them navigate the process, and they made so much more than they thought. And like Jodee said, we got one of our best testimonials.
All right, so we kind of danced around this one, but I get this question from sellers a lot when I'm doing my initial consultations around listing a property. Should I paint the walls? Should I replace the carpet? Should I put in a brand new bathroom? new flooring, et cetera. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it depends, obviously, like you just mentioned, every scenario, every transaction, every buyer or seller, they're all different. So there's a lot of variables there.
And we do get this question a lot.
We do get this question a lot. It is somewhat counterintuitive because sellers think that they need to spend a lot of money to get their property ready to list. That's not always the case. We do try and get them to eliminate maybe the low-hanging fruit, some issues. If obviously they need to repaint a room that their kids grew up in and have lots of dings and dents. That's an easy thing to do. A refresh of carpet is certainly something that helps an aesthetic when a buyer first walks in the door. But we kind of give them an idea of some things that will get their return on investment when they sell it, and some things that they might think they need to do that, based on our experience, we tell them you absolutely do not need to spend that money. Keep that in your pocket. It is our goal to put as much money in their pocket as possible. So having as many years in the biz as we do and as many transactions as we've been lucky enough to participate in, we have a really good feel for what to advise them.
And we'll have sellers that they already have a laundry list. And we'll look at their laundry list and say, you don't need to do these things, right? Just save your time and save your money. That's not going to put more money in your pocket. And then we have some sellers who don't have a laundry list at all. And we'll say, you really should consider doing this and this and this.
Right.
And it also depends on the seller's margin, right? So some sellers don't have that money to, sell it and walk away with a little bit in their pocket. So we try to help out where we can.
All great points. So with so much information available online, and just in general, people love to talk about real estate, media, everybody. Are there any misconceptions that you guys, see on a daily basis that you'd like to clear up for our listeners right now?
Well, we always joke around about people watch HGTV, and in a 30-minute television cycle, how an entire property is flipped and updated, or an entire real estate transaction is just cranked out, and it is really not that simple. The timelines are a lot longer than you might think. There are a lot more decisions that go on behind the scenes than the TV show might, have you believe.
Yeah, if we were rehabbing a house and we told our contractors that you show up on Thursday and redo the floors and you're going to be on TV, they're going to be there on Thursday. But without a camera crew, they'll probably be there like in 3 weeks.
It always takes longer than you think.
Always.
There are always surprises, and you just got to learn to roll with the punches. And that's, real estate is not for the faint of heart. In terms of flipping homes,
right?
Our job is to make it so it is easier for people to process. It is not as stressful. It is not as overwhelming as, this is the biggest transaction you're ever going to be a part of, most likely, for most people. And we pride ourselves on making it, as smooth as possible.
Yep. And you mentioned one earlier that I wanted to bring up for our listeners, which was just because your neighbor's house sold for X, right? There's way more that goes into the price of a home than that, right? If it's been 11 months, the market could be completely different.
Absolutely.
How many bedrooms were in your neighbor's house? How many square feet? There's a lot of factors. So it's not always a good barometer of what you should list your house for.
Spot on.
So shifting gears, I've seen you guys do some pretty cool marketing stuff, and I get a front row seat to it being part of your team. But do you guys think that the cool marketing videos and some of the other things you do, does that give you guys an edge and give your sellers an edge?
We like to think so. I think there's always a way to differentiate yourself as a real estate agent and as a real estate team, whether you're helping a buyer or a seller. But in this specific instance, I think that leveraging the marketing materials that we have access to as agents with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, putting out 3D Matterport videos, putting out drone videos that really give you a feel for the location of the home and the proximity to parks, churches, a lake, for an example. Mm-hmm. Floor plans can be tricky when you're looking through hodgepodge pictures on a listing. So the drone video that Jodee orchestrated on our most recent listing really gave you a feel for the house. It was a unique layout. Gave us a chance as a team to really kind of create a unique marketing piece that is really just being unveiled in the state of Ohio. I think we're the second.
Yeah, I think we're the second agents in Ohio to actually do this type of drone video, but it's a drone about this big, so it's completely different than what takes the exterior photos, mm-hmm. and it has rubber bumpers. It can bump into walls. I think ours bumped into a doorknob.
Yep.
But you can fly the drone, well, our pilot flew the drone through the house, out windows, in a door, and so you can see really a whole floor plan, which was important for the one that we just did it for because it did have a very unique floor plan. So a little bit harder to look at a sequence of pictures and figure out how the house flows. This was really our best way of showing that, especially with the buyers today just starting online, right? They all start online. They want to see everything online before they make an appointment. And so using cutting edge marketing and technology is, I think, key.
It really does help our seller. I think absolutely right, honey. And everybody has an iPhone or an Android. Everybody has a good camera.
So what else do you guys do for your seller clients to help them gain maximum value?
Well, I think in addition to some of the stuff that we had already spoken about, it's just really important to communicate through the entire process, to set the expectation of where the market is in their neighborhood, their school district, their municipality, and understand that this is probably where your house is going to sell in this range, but you never know exactly what buyer pool is out there at any given time. So you just really communicate with them, and then also listen to them. What are their needs? What are their concerns about the process? And just help answer those questions. Help them stage. Help them. Jodee has got such an amazing eye for the aesthetic, which is really important in real estate. Even some rooms that might be pretty large square footage wise, depending on where the furniture is, can feel pretty small. So we can do a simple thing like just rearrange their existing furniture, or like I said, we can help stage with some of our inventory. I think we have 2 listings staged right now, and help the house sell itself in a way, because ultimately that's what we're here for. We're here to get that property in contract, through all the contingencies that come after that, to the closing table for the highest dollar amount possible given the market constraints.
Yeah, we schedule a pretty lengthy appointment at the home between the listing appointment and the photographer showing up to take pictures, and we go room by room and we make notes of different things that they can do. And like David said, sometimes just removing some of the furniture can make a space feel bigger. And if you have a home with spacious rooms, but they don't feel spacious, that's a problem. So yeah, we'll go through and staging. We do quite a bit of staging. We can stage using what they have already and just neutralizing some of the art or some of the linens. We can stage a completely vacant home as well.
Love it. So great insights, and we're about to wrap up here, but I'd like to leave our buyers and sellers with just one last tip. What's something, even if they're not ready to take the leap this moment, what's something they can do today from a buyer and a seller perspective to get started? And Jodee, let's start with you.
Yeah, so from a buyer's perspective, I think meet and have a buyer consultation with your realtor. Interview several realtors if you don't have one picked out yet. And just get prepared. So some people think, well, I'm not ready. I don't have the down payment yet. It doesn't matter. Schedule that appointment with the realtor. Get pre-approved with a local lender. That's very important. And that local lender can also say, well, you're not quite ready, but these are the steps that you can do to get there.
I love that.
So instead of just thinking, well, I need to save this much money, I need to be in this position, I need to get that pay raise, just sit down and have that consultation and come up with a time frame.
I think a lot of buyers would be surprised how easy it is to get the ball rolling, and sometimes have it build up in their heads to the point where they don't think they're ready. But if they partner with a good lender and a good real estate agent, that they can really start to put the pieces together to be successful. I think a lot of people don't realize that lending rules can vary not just from state to state, but within different regions of a state. So it is very important to use a local lender. They understand the title differences in Columbus versus maybe Cleveland or Cincinnati. And then from a seller perspective, I think it is very important to heed your realtor's advice. We know what helps a property sell. We know that might be your favorite paint color in the great room, but we want it to attract the largest spectrum of buyers possible, so maybe you want to do a little bit more of a neutral color. certain things that you can do, some basic repairs. And we kind of riffed on this earlier, maybe new carpet, maybe new paint, but just really enjoy the participation and the partnership with your real estate agent. And I'll tell you, it'll make a world of difference in the simplicity of getting the deal done, and you'll make a lot more money.
Well, perfect. Great advice from both of you. David and Jodee, thanks so much for joining me today. I could listen to you guys talk real estate all day long, and I do a lot of days.
Well, thanks for inviting us.
For our listeners, I hope you've been able to pick up a tip or two. I appreciate you listening to our podcast. Certainly hit the subscribe button or leave a comment. Share this with someone else that you think might benefit from the tips. We wish you happy holidays and best of luck on your real estate journey.